What's going on, everybody? Sean Daniel here with Guitar Control, and today we're going to talk about counting. It's not just for fancy professors and mathematicians. Musicians also have the ability to count, and musical counting, I think, is one of the most underappreciated things that you can do, and especially when it comes to guitar strumming, which is what we're going to focus on right now. So, for example, a lot of times when I hear somebody try to explain a strumming pattern, they'll be like, oh, just go like down, 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 up, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up. And that's like such a confusing way to give instructions on how to do a strumming pattern. I think what it really comes down to is you want to have proper counting, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you can incorporate that into your playing and really drill that into your head to work on your timing, because timing is something that is kind of notoriously hard to teach, and having like a solid understanding of counting is going to be the best thing that you can do. It's going to help you no matter what you're playing, or even what instrument you're playing. So basically, we're going to start with just downstrokes. And something that you might want to have handy is a metronome, whether it's like a standalone metronome, something on a computer, something on like a phone app. A metronome is going to be really great because it's going to remind you of a down beat. So when I say a down beat, we're just going to count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every single number is going to be a down beat. We're going to use a C major chord as an example and just count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All of these are downstrokes. So instead of thinking of this as a pattern, down, 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 all whole numbers, right? Now, one of the most common counting patterns or strumming patterns is down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. Really simple, really basic, probably one of the first things that you learned. But instead of counting it down, 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 up, we're going to add ands between the numbers. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And. So if we think of all those numbers as downbeats, the upbeats or the offbeats are going to come in between the 3 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. Now, if we're going to reference the first and that I just spoke on, remember, right, we have the third beat and the fourth beat both have ands. We're going to say the and of 3 or the and of 4. 3's and, 4's and. It can be kind of confusing in a mouthful if you start saying it in different ways. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and. The really important thing about counting is to not skip beats. So even if I'm only playing the and of 3 and the and of 4, I'm still thinking 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Really steady. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. See, right now my hand is going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up to that tempo. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm just choosing not to hit the strings on the and of 1 and the and of 2. So really having that repetition of just an alternating down and up pattern like that is really important. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So again, the strumming from your wrist is always going to be locked into that tempo. You can do all of them like that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. One good way to practice this is cycling through, putting a new and beat on each number. So the first time around, the first bar, I'm going to have the and on the and of 1. The second bar, I'm going to have the and on the and of 2. The third one on the and of 3. The fourth one on the and of 4. So it might actually be more difficult than you think. Conceptually, it's very easy to do. But if we count it, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. Just like that. It's a really good kind of way to test if you're really getting that and beat right on time. Sometimes there's a tendency to rush if you're going up. You really want it just even as can be. A lot of times I'll see beginner guitar players, like if we're going to put like a 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, they'll rush 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. Stuff like that. It just kind of gets all jangled up and it kind of gets broken. So practical music counting is super, super important. Now the next way to do this would be to break every single beat into fourths, right? And that would be 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Again, those are just kind of a traditional way to count it. And if I were just going to mute, so if we have like I'll just do like a muted string just so you can kind of hear the difference. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So the tempo is the same. It might seem like I'm rushing, but I'm really just adding more hits, adding more accents into each beat. So if you think of like 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, again, it sounds kind of silly saying it out loud, but it's really important to kind of say this stuff out loud every now and then, because if you can say it, you're going to have a much easier time playing it. So let's just do, let's do all 4 beats like that. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Now what you might notice is I'm accenting the downbeat, the actual number, the 1, 2, 3, 4, every time. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. I'm giving a little more force to the downbeat. Like if I had a metronome on right now, I'd be locking into that. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So that's really good. Just to practice, even just saying it out loud while you're playing it, saying the beats out loud that you're not even playing like it right there. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Okay, it's really good for your tempo, especially locking in with the metronome. Now what we can do is we can start creating our own strumming patterns just by kind of randomly inserting different styles into that. So let's put on the 1, let's do a 1 E and a, right? So we'll have like 4 in the first beat. Then 2 we'll have just a 2 and. 3 we'll do the same thing as the first beat, and then 4 will do the same thing as the second beat. So it'll be like 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a. Now, what you could do is you can still think of 4s in each beat, like 1 E and a 2 E and a, like that, without having to play them all. But sometimes I think saying it the way you're going to play it is really helpful, even though that timing is going to exist kind of behind the scenes in your brain, which is essentially what you're going for, to kind of get your brain just on cruise control so you don't have to think about it anymore and you can just kind of feel through it. So 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 and 3 E and a 4. You can speed it up a little bit. Now, I think a lot of times what you might want to do is kind of break up one of the ones in the middle of it. And depending on how you stagger these different countings, it's going to have a much different feel in how the song progresses. Like one thing to do if you have a 4-bar progression, if you have that 4th bar and you kind of load that, if you backload that up with more notes or more strums, it'll kind of create like a propulsion for it. Like 1, 2, 3, 4 E and a 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 E and a 1, 2, 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4 E and a 1, 2, 3. Now having it in the middle can have like a different effect. Like let's put it on the 2. 1, 2 E and a 3, 4. 1, 2 E and a 3. So there's a limitless supply of strumming patterns you can have once you have proper counting. Adding those dynamics is really, really important. If you just play everything full tilt, like, it's almost hard to hear the counting within it. I think kind of adding the dynamics to do the counting for you really helps you lock into something. I think the best way to start is by doing the downbeats as a dynamic. 1, 2, and 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Another way to do that is instead of kind of like hitting all the strings at once, you can play dynamics just by hitting different bands of the strings. So like I said before, if I do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and maybe like the downbeat is going to get like the lower 3 strings, and the and of one is going to get the higher ones. Just like that. So it almost kind of sounds like you're playing 2 different chords. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And dynamics doesn't always have to be just a variation in the force that you're playing. It can be kind of how you approach the chord, stuff like that. So really, I urge you to start thinking in numbers more than down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, down. Because that stuff just gets confusing. Once you have proper counting, it's going to help you shine in not just your strumming, but it's really going to reinforce just accounting behind the scenes, which every good guitar player has. Even if you're playing lead stuff, that space is always going to be kind of dictated by what's happening behind the scenes. You don't even have to actively count it. It'll just kind of be there, and it'll be a great framework of timing, because again, timing is so important. You can have some guy shredding all over the place. If he has bad timing, no one's going to want to listen to him. You could have somebody just playing like really simple cowboy chords in proper timing, and it's going to sound really good. So work on your timing, work on counting out loud, and if you have any questions, please hit us up in the comments and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks a lot. So if you actually learned how to count and you want to learn more, click on any of these videos to have Sean Daniel, your old pal, help guide you through this guitar journey, and hopefully you like what you see. Thanks a lot.